Hello. We are at the last part of this 3 mini-series of the DMV. And today we're probably going to be at one of the less good. If the entire point of the series has been showing nice parts and then bad parts of the DMV, then we're still certainly on the nice part of the spectrum. You know, it is a testament to the DMV that you have to go down the list pretty far to get to the bad stuff or the bad parts. But nevertheless, we are hitting the bottom in that regard. Nevertheless, today's plan is to walk by Jerome Powell's house, maybe a certain member of Congress while we're at it. We'll see. We'll see. The bigger point, though, is to observe just how amusing the DMV is from a urban planning perspective, right? So here we are here. You know, clearly there's like some degree of density, right? I didn't do the best job of showing it because I'm just, I am making a direct line to Jerome. But so it's literally like Vancouver. If you've ever seen a picture of Vancouver's skyline, it is literally comical. We have these like 5x5 block radius, where a skyscraper and tall buildings, and then it's literally surrounded by single family housing. Like, I don't even think San Francisco has horrible urban planning, but San Francisco is not as comical as that, because at least San Francisco is one continuous thing. It's not like the Salesforce Tower is disconduit from everything else. But in Vancouver, it is very, very discongruent. And the same goes for, quite literally, the DMV. Right, it's not like Arlington and that Silver Line corridor down in Virginia is any different in the slightest. So, just amusing rants about urban planning. But so the point is, right, again, the common theme is all of these routes I take are very accessible. Hopefully you'll be harassed less by Peter Thiel security schmuck. So maybe, if anything, it'll be additive for you. I'm on the wrong side of the road. Let's see, people respect crosswalk. Not overly high hopes, but, and to show the timestamp, to show how dedicated I am, we've been walking for 4 minutes, 6:26, listening to a French song. Let's do it. What better way to do a Monday? Here's a nice destroyed church. Yeah. Actually, yeah. It doesn't look that bad from that angle, but then I'm not sure if you can see, like, the roof has been caved in, but the roof has been caved in. Unfortunate. Yeah. But again, right, so, but the broader theme of these videos, there's certainly something I just find very amusing about living in the DMV, is that, right, this is the capital of probably, well, certainly the richest and most powerful country in the world, globally. And this is the capital. So naturally, a certain portion of the elites of this country should exist in this place, right? The same way if you were in, I don't know, what's a unique example that shows my knowledge? If you were Charlemagne, right, your capital would have been, well, I'm not quite sure. I was going to make a Belgium joke, but not quite sure. But, of course, the point is, right, that powerful folks tend to live in the capital of places. And so the DC and the United States is no exception, which just makes it, to me, very bemusing that this is the built environment in which some of the richest, right, like somebody hung up their dog poop on that stick. I don't know. Is that house someone that's powerful? Again, not universally, right? But directionally, it's a true and fair statement. Very much so. And so I was trying to, and you think in other countries, right? Like you see, like the purpose-built capitals that people live in, and it's very different setup, right? It's like a dedicated administrative quarter or something like that. And then here, it's like, I don't know. Like you'll literally see where Jerome Powell lives. It's like, it's a nice house. It's nicer than most houses. It's not as nice as, like, frankly, it looks like if you had to pick like a Georgia suburb, I don't think it would not be out of place in a Georgia suburb, or Atlanta suburb. Like, I do think it's nicer than the average Philadelphia suburb, but it's not nicer than, say, like the Line in Philly and that type of older house, right? So it's just not this congruent at all for that stuff. That's trying to point again, like you think about the lives of the most the people who dictate the marginal terms of your existence existing in the DMV, and it's like, well, this is the DMV. Certainly the parts of the DMV that matter more or are nicer, or certainly where that echelon of people reside in. So that's find amusing, because I think you could easily imagine, like you see the news stories, right? Say like some people in the new administration like buying up a Georgetown mansion, stuff like that. That actually does remind me of a new potential video idea. Maybe doing something in Georgetown. Slightly inconvenient as Georgetown is to get to. But yet, here is the abode of Jerome, a Princeton man, or whatever else nameless government bureaucrat who lords over some niche. And again, like, it's just like there's a very different like status setup, right? It's not like any of this is trying to be outlandish or overly fancy. Well, I do suppose if you're one of the people who have like a statue on the corner of your house, that is, pretty attention seeking. But like for the most part, right, like these houses are quite, I don't know, standard. They're nicer. They're not outlandish. So on one hand, it's good to know that the majority of your federal overlords are I say everything with complete irony, or humility, given that I used to listen to Pod Save America religiously in high school. I was unironically like a Beto O'Rourke, a Beto guy. Hilarious, man. It is humbling thinking about what you could have been doing when you had all that free time. It's like, man, looking back, I really wish I paid more attention. I really wish I just like focused on second tier Bulgarian football. Like having pattern recognition and appreciation for second tier Bulgarian football would benefit me much more than my Pod Save America or just politics in general phase. I would actually have a niche that would genuinely be niche and therefore differentiated. There is a, loosely speaking, a monetization angle to it, whether through a blog or certain illicit behaviors, right? None of that exists for politics. I'm not a Harry Stisson or whatnot. Of course, well, if I was Harry Stisson, I would get in trouble for doing the exact same thing, probably. Because why not? Dude's a teenager, man. Such a weird controversy. But I just find that to be incredibly hilarious, if not marginally depressing. And again, right, thinking about time, right? You never get it back. Like one of the great quotes I've read online. I think it's from my guy Yoshimi. Is the melancholy of a time that once was coming, but now inevitably seems to be going. I think that's great. A, just from like a prose perspective, that's excellent. And then B, I do think it captures a lot. Like just like melancholy is such a good word in general. And it is true, right? Like you're looking forward to something and here it's gone. Like I'm gonna be a year older pretty soon. It's like, I don't know. If you told me 5 years ago, I'd be here. Like plus and minus, I take it. I think I always surprise myself on the margins. I'd be terribly disappointing in other regards, but you take the wins where you can, and you don't think about the blemishes as much. So back to a point I made in an earlier video, right? If you think about where, like, if you had to pick the top 100 most important, like, Americans, and you can keep it broad, just say American, so it could be an actor, it could be a banker, it could be a business figure, right? So out of the 100, where do they reside? If it was an equal distribution, well, 100 divided by 51, or maybe 52 if you count Puerto Rico and the districts, right? So if it was equally distributed, everything should have like one person nominally. But of course, that's not the case. But then it's by thinking about, well, where would the top 100 people not be? It's like, okay, I know Zuck's in the top 100. He's in Hawaii. I know California's got a bunch. I know New York's got a bunch. I know Florida's got a bunch. I know DC's got a couple. So it's like, what states wouldn't? It's like, well, I imagine Colorado probably has one. Well, I imagine, where's Jackson Hole, Wyoming? They've probably got one. Okay. So what states wouldn't have one of the top 100 people in the United States? I'm sorry, my initial instinct is somewhere in the Deep South. I can imagine the very wealthy person just like dominoes into some random corner of New England. And I'd be like, okay, I see why Maine doesn't. I can see one of them being in Maine. Right, you can certainly imagine someone in the top 100 just existing in Maine. Like, that is perfectly understandable. But the same way like Oregon or Washington, okay, I can imagine some goober existing over yonder in those places, you know? But like Mississippi or Alabama, that's a bit tougher to imagine someone from the top 100 being. Not sequitur aside. So this is the place. Yeah, not that interesting, right? It's not that interesting of a residence. But again, right, just the juxtaposition of the built environment is amusing, right? Like, it's not that discongruent or random, right? It's fairly integrated. But yeah, so that's where the next Volker resides. Actually, it does seem like someone's residing. Yeah. At the moment. Are we 17 minutes in? This used to be annoying because there's no sidewalk when you go down that way. So I actually think we do need a background. So even Chevy Chase can't avoid the issue of the sidewalks that dramatically end randomly at some point. Like, we can't all beat that. Like that street, for example, right? Like no sidewalk. So it's just a nice quirk of DMV urbanism that exists. But so that is Jerome's abode. So, and of course, you have the federal SUV on the outside, because why not? Or it is it is a great tell. I think that much makes sense. I do find it amusing to imagine like speeding down Connecticut or Wisconsin Ave. I suppose if you're the Fed person, there's not a lot. I suppose technically you're in charge of the banking system, but I don't know. What are the odds something goes that wrong for you? But yeah, so that was like 18 minutes. Again, walking at a very leisurely pace. I guess they do toss the paper on a Labor Day. But back to like where the top 100 people would and wouldn't be. Yeah, it is like, yeah, I imagine them in imagine them in I don't imagine them in Mississippi. I have visual evidence. Clearly, I didn't. I was kind of thrown off because it does feel somewhat on the loosey-gooseier end. But, so it turns out that the Powells, they actually, frankly, I would have thought they would have, vomited away for Labor Day. Although I will say, it does appear that they're actually, more involved in the community than you think. There's a random article about his wife, who apparently is on the HOA or planning board, and there's an article about a dog park, which is such a classic. Okay, so that newspaper wrapper matches the wrapper of the newspaper outside Powell's. So there we go. So now we have a visual confirmation that Jerome, or at least someone close to Jerome, reads the Washington Post. So yet another W for that is funny. It is funny how the Washington Post, of course, you have it actually has an interesting corporate history, right? With Buffett being involved in it at points in the past. But it's funny, conceptually, I know yesterday we talked about the cultural cachet of certain, I guess industry takes it down to Powell's also. But we talk about the cultural cachet of certain newspapers, the New York Post, unironically has a cultural cachet. The rag that it is. But, can you say the same about the Washington Post? I'm not quite so sure. At the same time, I do find the Washington Post tagline, "Democracy dies in darkness," to be so hilarious and on the nose. It's you're gonna be the guy who says, the implication is just so amusing. It's democracy dies in darkness. That's the Washington Post tagline. Therefore, the Washington Post is the light that protects democracy. Okay. I like where you're positioning yourself. I see why that would motivate you to, or justify, having a price increase. I don't know. That seems a bit lofty, shall we say. But I'm not sure when they came up or associated themselves with that tagline. Kudos to the marketing guy. I'm not sure if anybody unironically believes it and is I must subscribe. I don't know. I just use my Montgomery County Library card and I get it, Or I'll use Internet Archive to get around the paywall. Yeah. I can't say I'm I used to be a religious newspaper reader of certain websites like The Atlantic and that ilk. That's a nice house. I used to. Not anymore. But I can't, the Washington Post was never in that rotation. I just don't associate the Washington Post as being a prestige brand. Right. I don't know, crucify me. I apologize to the brand masters. Yeah, here's there's a random police station. Or I guess the administrative building. Next. Down the street. Yeah. So I actually do see why it is like a very convenient spot for him, right? Because you just go down. But you see like where there's no sidewalk, right? Like down that bend. I guess it is early enough where I could have just walked around, but why not? Now, do I jaywalk across here or not? Because next on the docket, well, the sound's gonna be horrible, I suspect. Yeah, there's a crosswalk. Yeah, so sound's gonna be horrible. Apologies, but so we've checked 1 out of 3 on the box. Thanks, guys. And again, right, the joke is I'm inadvertently literally passing by so many. Like, so many. Presumably there's some goobers out there who just have better OPSEC and the like, and so just aren't gonna be like as easily found from my 1 minute of Google searching. You know.
Wait to cross Connecticut at.
Oh, look at this nice. I have no idea if that. I know some places have fancy crosswalks. Some places have fancy crosswalks where they do like multi-combo code stuff. Where it's like flashing lights and it not flashing. I think there's a great YouTube channel called Streetcraft where he just like dunks on bad. That's a nice looking house. But there's a YouTube channel called Streetcraft where he just like dunks on bad intersection and he ultimately, I think anybody who does some basic critical thinking does realize that at a certain point roads are actually detrimental to the built environment. And the Streetcraft does a good job. I was really doing the obvious statement that bad roads and bad intersections are actively detrimental. Yeah, and there's like those weird intersections that go 8 different ways and it's not clearly marked. Like, I don't know. That does not strike me as good for anybody. That's a great one. To my point. Let me ramble. So I figure out if we're going into. Okay. We'll be walking for a long time, for a decent stretch. This runny nose needs to go away. Horrible timing with it, but the beauty is the struggle, after all. Cross traffic does not stop. Excellent urbanism. Although it's a bit rich to call it a. It's a bit rich to call the DMV peak urbanism. So really no sidewalk all the way. So this is Brookville, as you can see. I don't think this is the main road. Or it is. Fascinating. Well, I suppose technically this little goat track that we will walk down. So again, right, like this is literally Chevy Chase, where some like top people reside, and this is the built environment that some of these people exist in, right? not a fancy sidewalk in the slightest. If anything, this sidewalk is marginally dilapidated. You know. So again, it's just a little. If I was Chris Arnaud, so I'm just gonna spew out recommendations. If I was Chris Arnaud and his Substack, where he just walks around the world, like I would write an observation about this, because I don't know. I think there's something to it. That, you know, and I don't think the DMV is not the richest zip code. I think. Well, frankly, that's because the like Bethesda or Chevy Chase, it's not exclusive enough, right? Like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, is richer because that's very exclusive. I imagine you have certain, like that one Miami zip code probably, where it's like that private, where Tom Brady and Ken Griffin are, and John Paulson. Like that's probably, like that is richer. Imagine parts of the Silicon Valley or Los Angeles, right? So like to call it a DMV the pinnacle of American excess, like you can't really do that. That'd be a bad video essay or article. Well, what is a good article? And if I was higher effort, or I would write something about it, or I'm just gonna bookmark this for a future essay. Is that like there is an observation here for this being the quality of sidewalk in the DMV. There is a nice protest sign. Let's do some camera work and zoom in. There we go. That feels pretty cool. Are we in DC? I just suppose the quirk about DC is that you don't really know when you're in it or not. Yeah, so we're literally on the border. And of course, my thing, it's not like DC has dramatically different zoning laws. So the line can be very, very subtle. It's not like a wall of apartments on one side and the other. I suppose since we were walking down this dull street, may as well do a fit check. Textured hair, rocking a Sampdoria. I guess just with the camera, it does like face tracking, so it's hard to do it right. But we're doing a Sampdoria 24-25 away. I don't know, to me this is extremely elegant jersey. But again, it is all vanity. And also, I clearly outsourced my fashion choices to Macron and Kappa and Adidas and more loosely Nike. Which I don't know, it's probably not the worst thing. It's like it's like if you just YOLO in after somebody else buys something at 13F. You know, it's like just don't buy what Berkshire buys. Like, I don't know. That's not great DD. It's not original DD, but like there is signal value. And it's like, you know, the priors, right? It's just, if you know the priors of the thing, right? Like, you know the priors of a Buffett company, or presumably there's reasonable quality. There is some emphasis on duration and all that. Then, so like, you know the priors, and those priors are probably, you know, just universally okay and acceptable to have, right? So if that's the case, like, go crazy, you know? Why not? Like, why not YOLO, right? Because like those priors, like, you're not gonna blow up. It's not like you're buying whatever I might be buying, some like leveraged, effectively binary option, because I just desperately seek leverage and greater exposure greater exposure to things, right? But if you're above it, like that is a good prior. That's acceptable and workable, and therefore for you, like there's signal. And by the same principle, you can do the same for who you outsource fashion choices, and like that's literally what you that is literally what you do with like a fashion brand, right? Like there is literally like a head designer, whether it's like whoever it is, whichever of the luxury houses, whether it's Gucci or Ferragamo or whichever other brand, right? Like you are literally outsourcing some discretion to it. And by the same extension, I simply choose to outsource my choices to, Macron or Kappa. I don't think Americans know those brands too well. Like I do think, or Umbro. I still think Macron is actually a very elegant one. Certainly the logo is quite elegant, right? With like the two girls on the side. So here we are. So I will say this is probably like, again, look at the sidewalk. Like this is not an overly nice sidewalk, right? But yet, I think certainly this corner of the DMV you'd probably call, again, like one of the nicest parts. And yet the sidewalk, it's not like it's blocked off, so it's not safest for kids. It's not. So I suppose now you have sidewalks on both sides. Congrats. But it's not like you have like crosswalks per se or all of that. Right. So again, there's an observation somewhere. Oh. We have a lot further to go to get to the next guy. And the next guys are just, I suppose the video title will spoil it, but I think it'll be Brett Kavanaugh and John Roberts. I think I feel pretty good about Brett Kavanaugh's thing, because if you look it up on Google, it's blurred out, which is probably what's it called? It's not like when you hide something and therefore it draws more attention to it. I forget the word for it. It's not Dunning-Kruger, because that's when schmucks like me feel smarter about something than we should be. Yes, but Martha's Editions. That is too fancy for one vlog. Powell doesn't live in Martha's Edition. Let that be a signal for where you wish to reside. Drive slowly, as I'm very certain a couple cars we passed did not. That's a quaint. That has a very skinny street. I assume it's a one-way, but it's not a one-way because it goes both ways, right? So I'm not sure how that works in practice. But what can you do? Not a lot, evidently. But yeah. So like, if I told you this was where some like the top people in, whether it's a consultant or a politician wouldn't be out here, but it's like some government bureaucrat or a lobbyist or a consultant, or maybe you're a Lockheed Martin exec. I bet there's a couple of those guys out here. Hashtag Hashtag nationalize Lockheed. Make Lockheed woke. I do suppose Lockheed is kind of woke. I think someone made a point. Again, just to do my little politics non sequiturs, because what else can I talk about on this very boring, or not boring, this is a very nice screen, but just very non-eventful. Like somebody made this critique, and it's like the fact that somebody like Lockheed Martin can sponsor, like if Lockheed Martin is sponsoring your events, that kind of shows if your event actually threatens or is troublesome to the people or the powers that be, right? Because I don't know. I think Lockheed Martin's incentives, they're not complex. They're perfectly rational. I don't think they're altruistic motives. But I think that is just a great framing. It's like, if Lockheed Martin is backing you, I don't know. That would for me raise the questions. It's like, how come the Sackler family wants to endorse me and my pro amphetamine events? Maybe amphetamines are bad. Or that's a bad example. I don't like that's the wrong insinuation. But it is just funny. Like, it's not like Lockheed Martin is sponsoring a march about an anti-war motivation, right? So I just found it to be a very amusing thing. I'm sure there's holes you can poke in that. I'm sure Lockheed Martin has. Well, I take that back, because I'm just not sure. And I don't think Lockheed Martin would. Now, I will say, this is actually, when you think about good urbanism, or just good design, like, this is probably some of the better examples of it, right? So, like, as you can tell, right, we are, right, like, single family housing all over the wahoo. Yet you have like these things, right, where it is like an actual built business. So like, it is actually walkable and accessible. Now it's a pharmacy, a coffee thing, a yoga thing, a barber thing, a dry cleaner thing, a music lesson thing. So clearly we are showing what the needs and necessities are for the DMV, or for